Chauffeurs who drive around rich people, what are some of the weird hawking conversations you have overheard? When we were in high school, my friend used to caddy at a local country club. One guy really liked him and asked if he would be willing to drive him around while he went out partying. This was like 2003 and in a pretty rural area. My friend agreed. He picked the guy up at like 8 p.m. Right off the bat, the guy handed him $200. He went to a bar for a little bit. My friend sat in the car. The guy came out, handed him another $200 and told him he had to visit his friend real quick. He went and got a bunch of coke. They went to another bar. He handed my friend another $100 and told him to look out the window and turn up the radio. He then blew several lines. He came out a couple hours later with a girl. He was married with kids. He handed my friend another $200, and they went back to her house. After they effed, he came out and asked to be taken to the beach. At this point it was like 2 to 3 a.m. My friend said that the guy slowly walked around the beach, went into the water up to his ankles, in his shoes, threw a bunch of rocks into the water and then sat in the sand for about 45 minutes. He came back to the car and asked to be driven home. When they got out of the car he hugged my friend and gave him $500 and asked him to never tell anyone what happened. None of us really believed my friend when this happened until the guy he drove got arrested for assault and possession of cocaine like 6 months later. And asked him to never tell anyone what happened. Did your friend ever end up telling anyone what happened? I used to know a chauffeur. He ended up driving around some big stars. He was big dude, like 6 feet 8 inches and super muscular. His best story was when he was driving around a few WWE, WWF back then, stars, and they awkwardly asked him to not get out and open the door for them because he'd make them look smaller. Friend of mine worked for an upscale concierge chauffeur service. His most memorable moment came when he lost Marie Osmond. Fairly simple gig, go to airport and pick up Marie Osmond, who was to be the featured entertainer at a private event. Plane comes in, he meets her, she has carry-on bag but her checked suitcase, containing her stage dresses and makeup, is missing. She is unflappable, though, asks to be taken to the nearest upscale mall. He does as instructed. She goes into a large upscale department store, selects 2 long sequined cocktail dresses and goes to the fitting room to try them on, without him, of course. Unfortunately, there are 2 entrances and exits to the fitting room, and Marie Osmond exits out through the other side and cannot find my chauffeur buddy, who is waiting patiently on the side she'd entered. 20 minutes passes. He thinks something has gone wrong, so he grabs a female manager and asks her to go into the fitting rooms and ask for Marie Osmond. The manager thinks she is being pranked and declines. Chauffeur buddy is in mini panic mode now, running wildly around the store asking random customers, "Have you seen Marie Osmond? Have you seen Marie Osmond?" Store security is summoned, and he is asked to leave the premises right now. He calls his employer and tells them he has lost Marie Osmond. The employer doesn't have her cell phone number but has her agent's number, and he is not accepting calls. She has in the meantime taken a cab to the gig, thinking she has been forgotten. Lots of apologies eventually ensued and there were no repercussions. Has anyone seen Marie Osmond? Stand close to me, dear, give the crazy man some room. Buddy of mine ended up picking up a Netflix producer while doing Uber. He said they had a great conversation as he brought him to his hotel. The producer invited him up for a drink, and since my friend was a film student he thought it'd be a good idea to go and try to get some good networking in. They hung out for about an hour when he asked my friend if he knew of any massage places with happy endings. He didn't, but the guy paid him $500 to bring him to the closest massage place, which was only a few miles out. Upon dropping him off he gave my buddy a card and said, "There's a big party/festival I'm hosting. That's your ticket in. I'll let you know then if I get that happy ending, haha." He got the happy ending. I used to drive limousine and taxi. One time I got the manager of a fairly famous Canadian band in my car asking me where to buy coke. I had no idea where and I told him that, so his bright idea was to find a prostitute, hire her and ask her. I told him I couldn't help him pick up prostitutes either. He was disappointed but understood. He had me drive down a well-known street until he saw a prostitute. He asked me to pull over, got out of the taxi, paid the fare, and then immediately flagged me down again as a new ride. I knew what was up, but whatever. He gets back into the car with the prostitute, and she tells him exactly what house to go to for some coke. I take them there and wait a bit, they come back out and I drive him back to the venue. Then he offers me 2 free tickets to the show, which I gladly accepted as loved that band and had seen them 3 times. Alas, since I was still working during the show, I gave them away to 2 friends who had never seen the band. They had a good time and I had a fun story to share with them about how I scored those tickets. Not really a shocking conversation and hardly a famous person, but it was interesting how easily and full of trust people can be about searching out and buying drugs in a strange city. For the record, this was 2003. My dad was a chauffeur when I was younger, and he told me of one story driving the director of a company down the road with the Blackpool illuminations in the company limousine. The director was standing up out of the sunroof with his arms out waving at people as he drove past. What the people on the street didn't know is that in the back of the limo there were 2 prostitutes blowing him. He thought I couldn't speak French, heard him telling his wife on the telephone where she should order a strap-on. I hope you said a goodbye in fluent French. Merci, au revoir, profitez des aventures rectales. I have multiple people pay me handsomely to let them smoke weed in the car. Heard a French guy yelling at his wife that $10,000 was too much to pay for 2 bracelets that she bought. Also, overheard a lot business deals with absurd amount of money referenced. Like tens of millions. I've had conversations at work where I've said just buy the 2 of the damn things, it's only $25,000. Kind of crazy from that to debating if I am wanting to keep my HBO subscription that night. I'm so effed out about money now. Look, it's only $250,000 for 3 years, I'm going to purchase 20 of the new iPads. High figures are just nothing. Then in my personal life I shouldn't spend $8 on a burrito, I have food at home. I'm literally out to dinner to discuss a 7-figure business deal this very moment while debating whether $10 is too much for a glass of wine. There's a factor of 1 million between 2 transactions going on at the same time. Madness. Drove LIMO at Marquette University during undergrad and grad school. Some of the students that went there were obscenely wealthy. Limos are the vans that drives drunk students anywhere on campus and a few blocks outside of campus. Couple things I remember randomly from it: drunk guy leaves his wallet on a van and another driver calls it in so me and another supervisor can take it to campus police. We pick up the wallet from the driver and open it to get the student ID, so they know who to email. There had to be a few grand in there, and when we called the kid to tell him about it he told us we could just keep it because it was too far from his dorm to bother picking up. I picked up a couple girls from HEO, and they spent the entire ride talking about how it was ridiculous that one of the girls' parents planned on making her pay for her own apartment after graduation and there was nothing even livable under $2,000 a month. The school is in Milwaukee, Wisconsin. Mardi Gras is the name of a campus ministry trip where you use your spring break to build houses and drink in somewhere that doesn't get snow in April. One of the people on my van was getting a free night of drinks from his buddies because he paid for everyone's trips. I think it was like $1,500 per person if I recall correctly. Rich kids are rich, but foreign rich kids are usually on a different level. Was talking to a guy from Spain who said his dad did something with movies over there, I don't know. He had an actual Rolex on and ended the conversation with, "So anyways, do you know where to find any meth? It is a free service and a frat star tried to pay me for the ride with a Ziploc baggie of cocaine." I said no, and he called me a legend and left a $20 in the cup holder before I realized it. Rich kids are rich, but foreign rich kids are usually on a different level. Was talking to a guy from Spain who said his dad did something with movies over there, I don't know. I had a Russian friend and I'd always just generally assumed he was at our university, in Scotland, on some kind of scholarship. Seemed to only own one set of clothes, was top of the math program and drank a lot of vodka. He did once try to sell me a submarine when he was drunk, but that happens to the best of us. All seemed to fit, until his dad shows up, and they flew to Paris for lunch. This is not a limo story, but this thread reminded me of a rich guy story. My daughter played soccer for many years, and at one practice, a guy drove up in a Ferrari, got out, and started talking to another of the dads on the team. After a few minutes, the guy left and another of the dads went over there and asked him who that guy was. He replied that the guy was his lawyer or something. I come to find out years later, that guy in the Ferrari was a multimillionaire, had one and only one client, that dad. And his only job was to handle the dad's charitable donations. So this dude got filthy rich donating millions of dollars of somebody else's money and taking a percentage off the top. The dad, who was apparently worth several $100 million, never came across as rich at all. He wore sweats too and was at every practice and game. He drove a Camry. Had been married to his average-looking wife for like 25 years. Stuff like that. Acted like a normal guy like the rest of us. Not a chauffeur, but seemed like a good chance to remind people of the story of John Boehner, at the time, Speaker of the U.S. House of Representatives, third in line for the U.S. presidency, not knowing how to use Uber. As the story goes, one of his aides downloaded the app onto his phone and showed him how to use it. Unknown to him, he'd been stuck on the carpooling option, Uber Pool. That's what he used for years. There are all sorts of tales of commuters hopping into their carpool and bam, there's John Boehner stuck in a middle seat asking to get dropped off at the Capitol building. However, you feel about his politics, I think that's pretty funny. Wasn't exactly a chauffeur, but I did have the distinguished privilege of working with a multimillionaire one time for a couple days, and I was just astounded at how out of touch he was with people. One conversation he was talking about how he hated all the new homes they were building, and he liked old castles, so he was having a castle in Scotland disassembled and reassembled here in the US piece by piece. On another occasion he asked me why I wasn't in college yet, the job was after high school, and I was working as a plumber, and gave me an "oh right" when I told him I couldn't afford to go yet and had to save up. Not a chauffeur, and I was a participant in this conversation. I used to tutor an oligarch's daughter in Rublovka, the wealthy suburb outside Moscow. One day she mentioned that she likes to ski. I asked her which kind of skiing she preferred. Downhill is more popular where I'm from, but cross-country is quite popular in Russia, it's even part of some schools' curricula. Her answer? My favorite kind of skiing is the type where you jump out of a helicopter. Silly me, I forgot about that kind. About 25 years ago I had a summer job at a very tony country club. 6-figure joining fee, 5-figure continuing membership dues, and that got you nothing but the privilege of paying top dollar for rounds, food, etc. I was a porter some of the time, as we had cottages on club grounds for members to stay and make a weekend of it. One of my duties was driving members to and from airports, usually private airports for private jets. One time I'm driving 2 guys to the airport, and one of them starts complaining. Seems he and his wife are always fighting over who gets the jet every weekend, and where they want to go. Well, the other one replied, my third jet is actually just gathering dust right now, since my son went to college. Want to take it off my hands? They shook on it right there in the van. Not sure if I qualify, but I did drive Uber Black for a while in NYC. Had a few interesting situations. One time I was driving a young woman and right before the destination she screamed for me to pull over. When I asked her what was wrong she pointed to the couple that was kissing in front of the building. Apparently the man was her fiancé. She didn't get out, she didn't cry, but she did ask if I could take her back to where I picked her up. I'll never forget her face, it was the saddest face I have ever seen in person. Another time I was picking up a group of guys outside a club early in the morning, and as the first guy stumbled and a Glock fell out of his coat pocket. We just locked eyes and I said, hope that's not for me, haha. I was nervous and didn't really know what to do. Probably my favorite was picking up 2 college-aged girls from what I can only assume was a party. They were very drunk, and the second girl was basically completely gone. They were going all the way to Ridgewood, which was almost an hour. Girl A was pretty talkative and funny, girl B looked to be completely passed out leaping and didn't move the whole trip. We made it to Ridgewood, and girl B sits up suddenly, looks around, opens the door, and vomits everywhere. She seemed fine after that, but I just kept thanking her for making it the whole way and not throwing up all over my car. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe to be the first to know about Red Rabbit Reader's new videos. If you like our videos, please like them on YouTube and share them with your friends. We welcome your comments below. Press to start another of our videos.